Hello, everyone. Cole here from Aggressor Adventures. I hope everyone's doing good on this Tuesday. Thank you for joining us for episode 5 of our Zoom into Adventure series. Today, we are fortunate to have Les Stroud with us. Best known as the award-winning producer, creator, director, and star of the hit TV series Survivorman, Les Stroud is the only producer in the history of television to produce an internationally broadcast series entirely written, videotaped, and hosted alone. With Les credited as the original genre creator of survival TV, Survivorman is one of the highest rated repeat shows on the Discovery Channel. So Les, how are you doing today? Let me unmute you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm really good, Cole. Thanks a lot for this.
Yeah, where are you calling from?
Well, right now I'm in Southern Oregon, just sort of north of the California border, and like everybody else, just kind of let me just put it this way, I'm getting a lot of gardening done.
I'm sure it's an interesting time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a little bit how you got into what you got into.
Yeah, I mean, my a lot of my background is pretty how would I put it? Almost understated, I think, in many ways. I think the cliche would be great if I could just say I was raised by wolves. And everybody would be probably like, wow, so cool. And they'd walk away. But the truth is, I was raised in the western suburb of Toronto up in Canada, and, born and bred on the TV of the 70s and all of that. But even, I won't say because of it, maybe in spite of that background, I always had a really strong yearning for nature. I just loved it on television. I love Jacques Cousteau. I love Tarzan movies. I love Wild Kingdom. Anything I could get that had to do with nature. And so that's my childhood background. I mean, and, from there on in, it's a lifetime of trying to get close to nature in any way I can, but falling in love with music at the same time. And most people at this point would recognize me, if they recognize me, would recognize me as Survivorman, which is a long-running series on internationally.
Great. So how did that get about? How did you decide that you wanted to make a new genre of TV?
Well, I mean, I didn't decide I want to make a new genre of television. That's one of those weird zeitgeist moments that no one can ever plan on. I'll digress for a second and say it's like when people try to make a YouTube video go viral, and a marketing agency says, we want to make a viral video. They haven't got a clue what they're talking about, because you can't make something like that happen. You can't adjust the direction of an artistic genre on purpose. And so really, these things have to come out of a place, a motivational place of truism, of reality, of desire that's got some kind of karma that's just good. At least you would hope. In my case, I just want, I at some point started taking survival courses, and this is going back into the day when it was like VHS tapes, and I just wanted to make some home videotapes. I wanted to make instruction about survival. And then, I continued teaching it, and years went by, and I started doing some, documentary films. And before you knew it, I found myself calling a television network saying, I have this idea. And quite frankly, I mean, in the beginning, I was laughed at, I was mocked, I was told, quote unquote, I was told, Les, no one is ever going to want to watch somebody survive in the bush on television, quote unquote. And she's no longer working for that network, I might add. But, I was undaunted. And next thing you know, I got it on television as a pilot, and it struck a chord, it took off. And, there's about a year, 18 months there where it was just Survivorman was blazing a trail, and that's when everybody else caught on. And people smelled money, and the rest, as they say, is kind of history.
So tell me, how did that first season go? Like, how did the pilot series go? Did you pick a destination you wanted to go to? I'm imagining you carrying, what year is this we're talking?
So we're talking 1999 and 2000. So it's the year 2000, I guess. And what I did was I did it as a pilot. I mean, everybody knows that term, pilot, you know, so that just simply means you do a one-off example of what you think the show can look like, and then you tell everybody, you know, I can do, you know, 30 of these or whatever. That's when it becomes a series. So I did one for a small, I did a small one for a Canadian network, but it was a major Canadian network, and it won just one episode, and it hit. And then I did a second one, and they loved it, and that's when I started. You know, shopping it around as a series. And then once I got it as a series, I mean, this is, sorry, my cat my cat may jump up in front of the camera right now, just so you know. I'm warning you, because she's showing signs that she wants some snuggling. You have to, everything has humble beginnings, you know, really. I mean, I've always loved the reality that there's no such thing as an overnight success, even for the most part, for the cheesiest ideas. There's just no such thing as an overnight success. You begin slowly, you build. You can look back on it with hindsight and go, oh, I see how it happened, but there's nothing overnight about it. So bit by bit, you know, time goes by, and now I have a contract for a little tiny bit of money to produce 10 episodes in Canada. And while I was producing them, I was still talking to American television, and they said, "Hey, this we like this. Let's give it a chance. Let's give it a shot." You know, and so they jumped in halfway through the production of those 10 episodes, and that was the Science Channel in the United States, and owned by Discovery Channel, and they put it on. So I mean, it was just me out there, literally getting myself someplace, renting a Jeep, driving off into the bush, heading out with my cameras, filming the survival. I mean, I would have done maybe some training. Maybe a local person would teach me at first. And then I've gone for 7 days to film myself doing the survival, come back. And there was just enough money to hire, I was editing before this, but to hire a separate editor to help me edit the episodes. And yeah, very humble beginnings, to be sure.
I picture you walking through the bush with like these tripods and big cameras from the 90s. How has it changed over the years with the technology? Is it, I imagine, much easier?
Yeah, massively. In fact, I think sometimes it's underestimated how much technology comes to the rescue of an idea, you know, and whereas, you know, I mean, I had this idea years before, but couldn't make it happen. Well, why not? Because cameras were big and expensive, and production and editing was big and expensive. So the thing that changed right around that year of 2000 was, well, basically it was the Sony VX1000. It was this little camera that shot on high 8, but its quality was like just some notches below what was called a Sony Betacam. And this was a big shoulder mount camera, which I used to film because I was a cameraman and an editor for other things. And so you'd film with this big, massive, heavy shoulder. You could never go out and do Survivorman with that. Right. But then all of a sudden there's a Sony VX1000 and these little cameras with high 8 tape, but they weren't broadcast quality. And so that changed everything, because the camera was small enough. I could take it out and I could film the stuff. Now you say, well, hang on, but they weren't broadcast quality, Les. How'd you get them on TV then? I lied. Simple as that. I lied. I did, you know, oh, what are you shooting this? I'm shooting it with a Sony Betacam. Because you know what? I was convinced that it was not about the technology. It was not about the quality of the footage. Of course, now I'm, you know, very, I'm a, what would you call it? A perfectionist when it comes to that now. But I was convinced that, as it always is, content is king. And I thought these stories that I could film out there, the content would be so rich, it wouldn't matter what camera they were shot on. And I was right. And I would film it, and I would deliver the footage, and I wouldn't tell them. And I would cross my fingers and hope that the quality control guy would miss it, that he wouldn't run it on the scope and say, wait a minute, up with our blah, 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 right? I literally did that, and they missed it. And then it was a hit. And somewhere in the middle of the first season, I remember getting a email from quality control saying, we can't accept this. You're clearly using more, because you were allowed to use like 10% of non-broadcast quality cameras in a television show. Everything else had to be the big camera.
Mhm.
And I remember, you can tell I never get to tell this story. That's why I'm having fun telling it. I got this quality control email from Discovery Channel quality control saying, you know, we can't accept this show. Well, this was actually, I guess it was season 2. So it was already hit. So I called up the executive producer and I said, you know, here's the show. And they watched the show, and it was, you know, me in the jungle somewhere in Costa Rica surviving. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it, just deliver it. And so from then on in, I knew the quality control guy did not have the power that he thought he had, he or she thought they had. And after that, but then just to short form this, the rest of this long answer is to say that from that day forward, technology with GoPros and small cameras, now then drones, I will say I was on the cutting edge of that step by step. Every time I saw a new camera, I'd run out, check it out. Oh, it's smaller and it's high quality. And yeah, it's saved my butt, because Survivorman could never have been produced in 1998, but it could in the year 2000 and
Wow,
2001. So that technology changed everything for me.
that is very cool. I'm gonna go ahead and ask them some of these questions that are coming in that are relevant to the TV show.
Yeah.
Do you have one specific destination that you really enjoyed more than the others filming for the show?
Oh, I'm still a slave to my love of the jungle. I love going to jungles, especially the Amazon jungle. I know with the new trip that we're an adventure that we're lining up with Aggressor is in Costa Rica, which is called the Little Amazon. I just do love the jungles. But that said, if I had to pick 2 others from my top 3, would be certainly the deep dark jungles, the high Canadian Arctic, and the Utah Canyonlands. And a not very distant fourth would be the high Andes of Peru. So those 4 always roll off my tongue well, because they're really breathtaking. You know, you know, the jungle is awe-inspiring. The Arctic is breathtaking. The Utah Canyonlands are mystical, and the Peruvian high Andes are just, they're just jaw-dropping. So those 4 are my favorites for sure.
Okay, and you know, we talked a little bit about how the technology evolved. Has the show evolved, or is it still you solo out in these
Well,
adventures?
to be honest with you, I haven't produced an episode since 2018.
Okay.
Was the last time I produced an actual episode, because I also produced the Beyond Survival series, which my best ratings ever, and that will be coming out again actually soon on American public television, or on public television. And then I did Survivorman Bigfoot. I did Shark Week, many other, just a new documentary called Lalash. So Survivorman has been going since 2001 professionally, and 17 years of doing it. Has it changed over the years? Absolutely not. The MO that worked for me on the very last episode, even though that was a Survivorman and son, so I took my son out with me, from
Cool.
that to the very first one I ever shot alone, still the same. I had to get out there, I had to survive, and I had to film it, and that's it. And I didn't mess with that formula of success.
Interesting. And now that question I had originally asked, like, what was your favorite? It was also a two part. What would you say was the most difficult place you had to, considering the surroundings and environment that you had to?
So my answer to that question is never based on geography. There's not a, sure, some geography is a little tougher than others, but that's not it. Survival is all based on temperature. And that is either it's cold or it's not. When it's not cold, I have forgiveness time. When it's cold, I cannot stop moving. I cannot stop surviving. So if it's going to be below 0, it's going to be difficult. That's what I put it down to. I don't care where you put me. Just tell me what the temperature is going to be.
Wow. Okay. So we know that you've traveled a good bit with Aggressor. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into scuba diving and how you got into traveling with Aggressor?
Well, my story for getting into scuba diving is perhaps not the greatest story to tell, but I don't mind telling it anyway, because everybody has their ways of getting into the love of scuba diving. And it was a period of time where, you know, I was riding high with Survivorman. I was doing all kinds of guest appearances. Things were going great. And I got a phone call, and the network is on the phone with me, and they say, "Hey, Les, do you dive?" And I knew what was going to be asked next of me, which I wanted to do. So I said, yeah, oh yeah, I dive. And they said, great, because we'd like to consider you for hosting Shark Week this year. And I said, oh, fantastic. Oh, when are you thinking? And so on and so on. So I hung up the phone call and I immediately called a friend of mine and said, quick, how quick can I learn to dive? So I didn't have a clue on how to, but I wanted to. I've always wanted to dive ever since the days of Jacques Cousteau. I was a little fearful of it. I'd heard stories of claustrophobic feelings and this and that, and I was a little nervous. And I went down to Toronto and I learned with a guy named Norbert at Aquasub. Phenomenal instructor, one of these guys with 15,000 dives, and he used to dive for the Polish army, that kind of guy, big burly guy who takes 3 seconds to put on his gear and he's under, now he's in the water and down before anything's going on. And so I went down and I learned, I did my pool session, discovered that a lot of the fear I had was nothing at all, was quickly dispelled. And I convinced them to allow me to bring him down. And I actually did my open water dive the day before my shoot with Discovery Channel. This whole time, they don't even know this is going on. They haven't got a clue, right? They're thinking, oh, Les knows how to dive. Of course he is. He's Survivorman. I'm sure he's a good diver. And I'm down there going, oh my God, it was my open dive. Ah! And so I go down, I do my open water. And then the next day, I'm literally 60 feet down filming with sharks. And just like mum's the word. If you ever see that episode, I'm sure, of Shark Week, I'm sure I look like such a dweeb. I don't know how to keep my buoyancy. I don't know. I'm feeding sharks. I'm like, oh yeah, but I was so in love with diving already, so instantly, that there was no fear level. There was I had my instructor was there, watching me. It was all so it wasn't as dangerous as I'm making it sound. There was lots of backup and protection. It's just that the network didn't have a clue. And I just wanted to dive, and this was my ticket. Well, after that, I was bitten by the bug, and I've been diving ever since.
Make it till you make it sometimes, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but safely. So, I mean, I will say, I had an incredible dive master with me every inch of the way. So I never took a chance. In fact, I became quite pet peeved about, when I would be doing Shark Weeks with people who were taking chances, and I didn't like it at all. I saw lots of lacking in safety, and that was not me. The thing about me in survival and everything I do is I'm not an adrenaline junkie at all. In fact, I'm really boring because I do everything so safely. That's what Survivorman was all about. Do things the right way and do it safely, so that you don't have to enlist the help of adrenaline, to get out of something. So, and yeah, I've been diving ever since. And along the way, this connection to Aggressor just sort of happened. It was like, maybe I could come on board and be a guest, sort of celebrity dive kind of guy. And that's where the conversation started. And we've been doing this together ever since.
Yeah, we always get a lot of great reviews after your trip, and one thing that's pointed out that surprised me was how much people enjoyed hearing you not only tell your stories but also play guitar and sing songs that you've originally written. So,
well, yeah, I was an outdoor guide for a long time, guiding canoe trips and hiking and sea kayaking and dog sledding and winter camping and snowshoeing, you name it. And I learned that being multifaceted as a guide is a wonderful thing, rather than being a one-trick pony. Like, I'm a great whitewater kayaker, I'm going to teach you, that's it. It's like, you got to have more, and so when the Aggressor opportunity opened up to me, I wanted to bring everything that I have. Well, it's 7 to 9 days together with a bunch of people. I can't, my performing ego never really stops. I can't just sit there and tell stories at the dinner table, which I do every night. But I asked Aggressor, would you mind if I did the presentation? They said, nope. So I do presentations and I show some video and tell these stories. And then, would you mind if I played a bit, brought my guitar? Nope. So I brought my guitar, and we've had some impromptu concerts and along the way. But I always, it's funny, when we do the introductions, I always say, if you don't want me to do anything, I'll just dive with you. I'm happy to just be here, but people usually say, sure, tell some stories or whatever, and we're off to the races. They're really, really wonderful trips. I hope, anyway. I think so.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know that sounds biased. Well, let's take another question. So, one of our great friends here at Aggressor, John Michaels. He's the one that has written our Aggressor theme song. Um, said he was in Sri Lanka just like you. He said that his favorite part was climbing up Sigiriya Rock. What was Les's favorite part of Sri Lanka?
First of all, why are we letting John ask a question? John, I know John. John, you weasel, you got in there. You're lucky. You could have just asked me this by text. All right, but I'll answer it anyway. For me, wow, Sri Lanka was amazing, but this might sound simple, but it's not. But that lunch that we had at that stop at this sort of family kind of run restaurant was one of the most mind-blowing meals I've ever had in my life. I know it's just a meal. Oh no, it was not just a meal. The food in Sri Lanka was mind-blowing. That's all I can say. Fantastic. I really loved stopping at the restaurant. I love my wildlife. So the park, we climbed the rock, which was, it was just beautiful. But going in and watching the elephants and the bird life on the safaris, yeah, it's really special. It's the kind of adventure that, if done wrong, you'd think, oh, you just aren't going to have, you're just going to know it's done wrong. But boy, everything was done right. Every day was, and I'm critical on stuff like that because I'm a guide. That's really what I've been all my life, as a guide and a teacher. And every day we had something beautiful to see and some great experience to have. So.
Did you happen to see leopards on your trip? They're the most elusive thing.
We got really lucky. We saw leopards a couple of times. Our driver in that, it's funny, one of the things that happens, and I've done tons of naturalist walks and talks and naturalist guided tours and so on in my neck of the woods and places I know. And so the guide really matters, and they've got some wonderful guides there at the Safari Lodge. And the guy we had went out of his way. Like, we really busted a butt to try to see a leopard, and he just had an instinct that was so great. And he's like, stop right here. It's going to come out around the corner. And because we spotted one in the bush or something, and sure enough, it would just come right. So we had leopards come right across in front of us. Really special.
That is awesome. So what other destinations have you been to with Aggressor?
Wow. You're taxing my memory a lot. Cocos, oh man, Ecuador, Galapagos,
Maldives, right?
Maldives, Palau, Sri Lanka now, of course. All of the Caymans and the Bahamas dives. It sort of goes on and on. I've done quite a few. And the thing is about diving with Aggressor is it's one of those things that you might have a perception on the outside if you've never done it, but once you get in on the inside, the perception, whatever perceptions you have, it's all erased, and you realize it's a really special opportunity. There's 20, 22 people, 18 people, 16 people, 24, whichever, depending on the boat. You can have your privacy if you want it. You can have your solitude if you want it. You can enjoy the group camaraderie if you want it. The diving's incredibly safe. And everybody's on point. I didn't know that's what it was going to be like. I really didn't. It's like, kind of sounds, oh, I'm diving on a liveaboard. It's like, oh, really? We're diving on a liveaboard this week. It sounds like that, but you get on there and you realize, man, this is just awesome. Yeah, it's so, yeah. It's still one of my most look forward to experiences in life.
I couldn't agree more. The camaraderie that you get is one thing that you forget about. You're gonna have great diving. You're gonna have great food, and you're right. You can be recluse or you can be social at different spots on the boat. But the camaraderie you get with not only the guests you meet that are also fabulous, diving junkies. You also meet the crew that are really hardworking and that are there that are making sure you're having a great time. Couldn't agree more. So let's see. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Costa Rica thing we're going to be doing?
Right. So Wayne Brown and I had been chatting, and we got the chance to meet on board the Wine Appreciation Cruise, which was awesome because I appreciate wine. And very obviously at the end of the day, everybody. And we got to talking, and the thing is, I've led so many trips, and certainly as Survivorman, I've had the opportunity to travel around the world. And for a long time, I've been thinking, you know, as Survivorman, as Les Stroud, the explorer, adventurer, if you will, I kind of want to get back to some guiding. I want to get back to hanging out with a smallish group of people and taking them to show them what I've seen. You know, it's one thing I've learned, you know, I think people think I'm the king of the solo adventuring, but in the end, uh, I've almost kind of never really enjoyed that. I'm a gregarious individual. I don't do enjoyment adventuring by myself ever. I always want to be with somebody. I always want to share. That's the best part of being an adventurer and doing these things is sharing. And so Wayne and I got to talking about, you know, I already have a great relationship with Aggressor. This is not going to stop. I'd like to do more. I want to continue doing more. Hey, but what about if we did something land-based? What if, as Les Stroud, I took people, okay, well, where? Well, you know, I sure love the jungle. And yeah, I kind of really love Costa Rica. Oh, really? And that led us down this path where we've now designed this adventure, adventuring with Les Stroud, if you will, where I can slip in under the wonderful umbrella of Aggressor Adventures and the logistical mastering of someone like Wayne Brown and his team, and say, okay, you guys get all that going. I'll show up and be me, and we'll do this in Costa Rica, and let's take them out into the jungle. Let's take them on this trek, on that trek. I've been to Costa Rica several times, and I'm deeply in love with it. And I'm a lay naturalist there. I'm not, you know, obviously the people who are there are far superior to me, but they'll be there too. And so we designed this so that we could have a tremendous adventure in Costa Rica, led by me. And hopefully, you know, people can see that I love telling my stories. I love being gregarious. I'm you know, happy to be the last one at the dinner table, you know, answering questions. So and that's what Costa Rica will be like. It'll be, you know, I'm not sure how long we're doing it for just yet. Let's call it a week, but it'll be a week of adventuring and stories.
Awesome. Right. Let's see if we got any more questions coming in right here. I just posted everyone into the chat a link that has all the details with this adventure with Adventures with Les Stroud. So it's a 7-night, 6-day adventure exploring Costa Rica from Copa de Arbol Beach and Rainforest Resort. I hear it's really great, and it's going to be a really cool trip. So definitely want to check out for that. Someone wants to ask some more questions about your music. So where can we hear your music at? Is there any?
Yeah, well, I mean, this whole current situation that we're dealing with has me, in fact, after I get off of this, I'll go right back to tons of organizing for YouTube, organizing all my online stuff and my music. And it's been great, actually. I'm lining everything up. I have 25 hard drives sitting on my kitchen table right now, and I'm doing all this myself rather than someone at my office doing it. So I've got a handle on it. Musically speaking, I have 7 CDs that I've recorded, and I'm reorganizing it's all on Spotify. You can go on Spotify right now, and all my music is there. And please subscribe to my Spotify channel. Just look up Les Stroud. There's also Les Stroud and the Campfire Kings and Les Stroud and the Pikes. And I don't want to flatter myself, but think of it like how Neil Young had Crazy Horse, and Neil Young, you know, same sort of thing. I have other projects. So Les Stroud and the Campfire Kings, Les Stroud and the Pikes. That's all on Spotify. Those are my albums. And I have probably another 40 songs right now I've recorded in the last 18 months that are now being mixed, and I will keep releasing them. I was already doing online concerts and already pulling back from live shows. I really just adore performing live. But in this day and age, it's hard to put bums in seats. It's hard to put bums in seats if you're a known musical entity. But if you're that survival guy, it's even trickier. Strangely enough, I could probably get people to come to a keynote speaking engagement, but getting them out to a concert is tough. So I was doing lots of concerts online, and I will start to fire up some more of those. So I'll online, go to Spotify. You can go to my website, lesstroud.ca, and download the hard copy of the CDs. And this year, I'm going to be releasing finally, can you guys hear the hounds in the background that are barking? Because I've got hounds up there, and they only start barking when a siren goes by, even though I'm in the country. Anyway, I digress. I've got a brand new double vinyl album that I'm releasing, 10-year long project of my called Mother Earth, and it's my Mother Earth project, and I'm releasing it as a double vinyl album this year. It is on Spotify already. It features Slash, it features Steve Vai, saxophonist Mindy Bear, so I'll be releasing that, and yeah, so music. I'll just keep going.
That sounds great. Do you have any other upcoming projects, future projects besides music or Aggressor Safari that you might want to talk about?
I mean, I'm a busy guy. So we have the Aggressor adventure with Les Stroud in Costa Rica, and we have the new album that I've just spoken about. In the meantime, I've written a new book. It's a children's book called Wild Outside: The Adventures of Survivorman for 9 to 12-year-olds on Anik Press in Toronto. That'll be coming out in 2021. And cinematically, I will be releasing. I'm releasing constantly on YouTube right now. If you go to my YouTube channel, Survivorman-Les Stroud, constantly new stuff and archive stuff for the sake of all of our sheltering in place situation and being stuck with the current state of affairs. I'm releasing lots of material online for people. And but I'm producing a brand new series called Wild Harvest for public television, and it's all about local foraging. So it's like gathering milkweed and cattail and mint, but it's not about survival. I bring it into the kitchen, and Chef Paul Rogalski turns it into an amazing, sumptuous meal. So it's about really enjoying the culinary experience of local foraging. And you've got me showing you how to forage, Paul showing you how to deal with it in the kitchen. And I'm producing a 90-minute special called Surviving Disasters with Les Stroud, also for public television. And both of these shows could not be better timed, because the disaster situation, it will include a section on pandemics. So go figure, perfect timing on that one. I'm working with FEMA and all sorts of agencies to produce that. And then the Wild Harvest, a lot of people have grown very interested in supplementing their own food sources with knowledge of local sources. So those two series will be coming out. So series, a special, book, an album, the adventure. I'm sure I'll be on another dive trip, hopefully with Wayne. Yeah, that's my busy time this year.
Very busy. And speaking of another dive, we have the owner of the Philippines Aggressor, Aaron Lerman, on with us, and he's going to be our next Zoom call on Thursday. He said very much look forward to having you join us on an upcoming cruise in the Philippines.
It's on the Philippines. Yeah. In fact, not only is that one on the to-do list, that actually I think is on the top right now. I'm pretty confident. I was about to go. So Wayne, I think the next dive should be the Philippines. That's how I approach it, very sheepishly, just to make sure I get to go where I would like to go. But these dive destinations, and I don't want to sound like someone hawking for the company or anything like that. I have to say, as I said, I fell in love with liveaboard diving. My daughter, my son, their friends, I got them certified. My wife, everyone that I connect with that is into diving. I always say, you need to go on an Aggressor liveaboard. Trust me, you will be blown away. It's probably not what you think, and I guarantee you it's 100 times better than what you think. So it's been my passion, and I do not. You know what's great about diving, and everyone knows this. Here's the thing. Clearly, I live a prolific. I try to live a prolific lifestyle with a lot of creation and a lot of artistic endeavors. But the second I splash beneath that surface, it just goes, and you have that. And all you hear is your breathing. And it's still one of the greatest feelings in the world to go beneath those waves and know for the next 30 to 40 minutes, you're just lost in this floaty world, flying, if you will. And that is still what I love about it, big time.
That's awesome. So guys, we're about to wrap it up. So if you have any more last minute questions, throw them in the chat box. We do have one more question here. They wanted to see, did your kids, you mentioned your son went on one of your trips, did they catch the adventure bug with you?
Yeah, I would suggest they did. They don't, I mean, and thankfully they don't try to copy me or be me or anything like that. They do it their way, as you would figure. I mean, they're 22 and 24 now. My daughter is an athlete going dangerously close to the Olympics at this point. She's cited there for triathlon, and my son is is headed towards being a smoke jumper. He's a wildfire fighter. But both of them love the adventuring. They both have the travel bug. When they were 11 and 12, I would bring them with me, and I would have them, not let them, I would make them go to the counter with their passport by themselves to book to get their plane ticket, so that they would become so comfortable with that process. And I'll tell you, that paid off, because years later, when I would fly them to meet me somewhere for an adventure, because I was already there or something like that, they could do it at 17 and 16 years of age. They could just go and do it, and they were confident. So yeah, even that part of the adventuring, they got that bug, and they know what they're doing, and to this day they adventure big time.
That's great. Have you ever had any emergencies where you had to evacuate or call for help or anything like that?
Not me, no, I haven't. But in the episode in season 2 or 3 in Labrador, when I was with the dog team, I heard the snowmobile coming, and I'm like 50 miles from anybody. And it was my crew, and I don't have a crew with me. They stay back 50 miles away getting beauty shots, as we call them.
Yeah.
And they said, I'm sorry, sorry, I'm screwing this up. It wasn't a sound snowmobile, it was a chopper. And the helicopter lands, and out pops the paramedic, and he says, "We have to evacuate you." And I'm like, "Why? I'm doing fine." It was like day 5. I was making a shelter. I'm filming. The ocean they had so much rain that the ocean was covered with 6 feet of water. We couldn't snowmobile out of there once I was finished filming. So I was evacuated by chopper because of my crew, not because of me. I was doing just fine. There's been a couple of times I've left on the evening of day 6 because I was so dehydrated that it's like, you know what's enough, enough's enough. So if you call that bailing, then sure. But again, my point was never to prove I could do 7 days or to, or anything like that. I did episodes that were 3 days and episodes that were 10 days and everything in between. My point was teaching the story of survival within a given ecosystem. It was never about an amount of days. And in fact, if me leaving because of dehydration is part of the story of survival, then it's one that I should tell. And that's why I never shied from it.
Okay. Well, I think that's it. Do you have any last pitch you want to show or throw out there for the Costa Rica trip? I've just threw the link back up there in the chat box, guys.
No, I think that because I'd like to share this video also with my fan base and people on my social media and that. And so if they when they hear this, I think probably the people that are here with us right now are already avid divers and lovers of diving, and they get it. They don't have to be convinced of anything. They know what we're talking about. But for anyone who does see this, understand that any adventuring I do, I bring all of my passion to it. I can be tired and jet lagged. I can even be grumpy. But once we get, we step foot on a trail or put on our BCD or anything like that, it's all passion for me. So I don't want to sound like I'm doing a commercial here or anything like that, but because it's a lot different. It's about adventuring together, and I've been really proud to adventure together with Aggressor for a number of years now. I want to say 8 or 10 at this point, and I don't plan on stopping. So I hope people can save up the funds or organizing the funds, whatever it takes to manage the funds and the travel, and I can say, trust me, make it worth your while, big time.
That's awesome. I think that's a good way to go out. So guys, let me run you back the upcoming schedule we have. May 14th, Aaron Lerman and Wayne Brown talking about the Philippines Aggressor. May 19th, the Aggressor Adventures Operations team talking about ship shape and ready for your next adventure of a lifetime, talking about what we've been doing in this difficult time. On May 21st, we have Samantha Whitcraft, the Ish of Fish and how to know any fish that you meet. We also have Captain Scott Arney from the Plow Aggressor and the Rock Islands Aggressor on May 27th. We have a couple more coming up after that, but we hope you guys come back and join us. And Les, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care. That's it, everybody. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.